Fantasy Rap
with Austin and Ozzy.
Oh, I just love those boys.
Hey everyone, this is Fantasy Rap, and I'm your host Ozzy.
And I'm your co-host Austin.
You can find us on fantasyrap.com. That is fantasywrap.com. Hi everybody, welcome to week 11 of the fantasy and football season. Austin is not with us tonight, so he's busy, he's at a meeting, isn't he? Yeah, so it's me and you. Is that cool?
Yeah.
So I've got Sutton here with me, and she is going to choose...
No, and this.
Oh, and her beautiful gator from Florida. Because Grandma and Grandpa were there, weren't they? Yeah. So we've got Washington and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I am going to let Sutton choose who we're going to talk about tonight. Who do you like?
I like this.
You like the Washington team? The Washington football team?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you look up and say goodbye?
Bye.
So you saw that Sutton picked Washington, and from the game, Philly actually outplayed Washington. Washington looked good early on. Philly didn't look so good, and it switched around quickly. Washington had Jaden Daniels going 22 of 32 for 191 yards, a touchdown and an interception, 7 rushes for 18 yards. Not really the type of game that you want from Jaden Daniels if you're trying to play him in fantasy, obviously. The yardage wasn't good. He really didn't hit McLaurin much at all, or even look for McLaurin. He didn't rush well, so it was really a down game for Jaden Daniels. Robinson had a pretty good game. He had 1 catch on 1 target for 9 yards. He had 16 rushes for 63 yards, which isn't great output, but he had the TD to get the points. So he was at least, in a non-PPR league, it was still 13-ish points, which is not a bad week from a running back. Then you've got Austin Eckler. He had 8 catches on 9 targets for 89 yards. He had 2 rushes for 7 yards. As the backup running back, especially if you're playing in PPR, it was a really good game from him. That's, 16.9, 17.6 points. Great game if it's PPR. Otherwise, it's, 9.6 out of a backup running back in non-PPR, which is still a good number. Then we move on to McLaurin. McLaurin had 1 catch on 2 targets for 10 yards. That is probably going to do a lot of damage to some rosters. I'm guessing that, usually you're going to play him, especially in a game where you're expecting some high scoring, and he just didn't come through. The last player that I've got is Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz was 6 of 7, 6 catches on 7 targets, 47 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown certainly changed things. As we've seen tight ends who over the course of the season have really struggled. So to see Ertz put up 10.7 points in non-PPR or 16.7 in a full PPR, that's a pretty good number for a tight end. And you'd be happy if you got that most weeks. Moving on to our plays of the week. Our top 6 quarterbacks, based on what CBS projects, are Lamar, Brock Purdy, Josh Allen, Herbert. I have Daniels, and I should have found someone else, and Joey Burrow. So I am going to go with C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud, they play against Dallas. Dallas has been horrible of late. Ever since Dak's injury and even before then. I don't think they're a well-coached team. I believe they've gotten some of their pieces back on defense, but I still think that C.J. Stroud is going to pick them apart. I don't think they've got an answer. Last week they put up 6 points. They just aren't getting the ball moving that well. So I think that C.J. Stroud is going to have a big game, get him out to a big lead. they'll probably coast at that point, but, maybe they just dominate all the way through. The running backs, we've got CMC, Joe Mixon, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Achane, and Alvin Kamara. So I am going to go with King Henry at Pittsburgh. Yes, Pittsburgh has a good defense. However, I think that Baltimore is going to run all over them, whether that means Derrick Henry, whether that means Lamar. I just think that they're going to do – I have a feeling that it's going to be less close than people believed it was going to be. So I'm going to go with Henry, and I'm going to ride the first half of pounding, and then the second half of some of those are going to break. He'll probably have a touchdown or two. I just like him in this situation. Moving on to the wide receivers, we've got Jamar Chase, we've got Nico Collins, we've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, we've got Garrett Wilson, we've got Tyreek, and we've got Justin Jefferson. So I am going to go Puka Nacua. Disappeared pretty much after the punch a couple weeks ago, and I think that he's going to come back against playing at New England, and he's going to be like the first week he was back, where he had like 10 or 12 targets. I think that he's going to have a lot of targets. So definitely in a PPR league, play him. But I think he's going to, even in a standard scoring, I think he's still going to have a lot of targets and therefore probably a lot of yards and possibly a touchdown or two. Moving on, our tight ends, we've got Kittle, Kelsey, Bowers, Taysom Hill, mainly because they have nothing in New Orleans right now, and Njoku and Mark Andrews, who up and down, and every one of these tight ends, it was like last week, the expectation was that Gesicki was going to have a big game, mainly because, with the wide receiver out, losing his name, T. Higgins, it was one of those, Gesicki always does well when T. Higgins is out. Well, last week he didn't. He really pretty much laid an egg, and it's almost like these players are going out there and going, hey, let's mess with people in fantasy football. Obviously, they're not. It's just the way the game plays out, but it sure seems at times like the guys that you expect to do well in certain situations completely fail in scoring the points that you would expect from them. And I am going to go with Hunter Henry. Going to go with King Henry, going to go with Hunter Henry, going to go with Henry Stroud. Oh, no, that's not his name. Never mind. Versus the Rams at home, I like Hunter Henry. I like the fact that, he is one of their more impressive receivers. Yes, he's a tight end, but he's been doing pretty well. Had a little bit of a down week last week, but I still like the fact that he is moving in the right direction. They're utilizing him a bit more, and I think with Ramondre running the ball well, it's going to open up Hunter Henry. Moving on, we've got our love 'em, flip 'em, leave 'em, and I decided to go with three tight ends who are more middle of the pack, depending upon how deep your league is. In my 16-teamer, all three of these guys are on teams, and they are the aforementioned Hunter Henry, Cade Otton, and Trey McBride. Now, the interesting thing here is that Cade Otton was coming on, and I would have thought that, last week he would have had a big week, and, things just don't, like I said, it changes so quickly that what the expectation is and what you think is going to happen sometimes just doesn't happen the way you want it to. And Cade Otton, in my mind, you probably have a sell high right now because the potential is still there. Now, the trouble is Hunter Henry rising, Trey McBride kind of falling off a little bit, who do you keep and who do you drop? And in my mind, and you may not agree with me on this, but I really like Hunter Henry going forward. I think their schedule is a little bit easier. And, while Trey McBride was one of those have-to-haves at the end of last year, I think that they're not getting him the ball as much as they would like to. And with Marvin Harrison wanting the ball more, I think it's going to actually cost Trey McBride. So it worries me a little that the whole system there, the whole process of who gets the ball and everything, I think they're going to try and appease Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think that will definitely hurt McBride. So I'm going to love Hunter Henry. I'm going to flip Cade Otton because of the value, and I'm going to drop Trey McBride. And that's all we've got for this week. Hopefully you're going to have a chance to listen in, watch the show, give us some feedback, and otherwise I'm Ozzy, and hopefully you have a great week and enjoy the football.